Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this Christmas wreath using the Deco Mesh, Poof, and Curl method. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Hello Stillwater's friends, how are you today? Come on in. Today we're going to make a Christmas wreath. Before we get started, guys, I just want to take a quick moment to welcome anyone new here to the channel. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about DIY wreath and door swag tutorials. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week, so if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and join us. You'll find a full materials list for you below in the description of this video in case you'd like to recreate this beauty. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase this wreath directly, I'll leave a link for that below as well. And to all of you who have been here on my channel for a while, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate you. If you're new to wreath making, guys, this is what's called a work wreath form. And it comes to you just like this. And so this particular base is 15 inches in diameter. It's got two layers, the lower and the upper. These are what we call ties. And there are 18 ties in total on our work wreath frame. And so the first thing we need to do is put these guys where they belong. So on the upper level, just point those guys towards the center, like so. And then on the lower level, we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to point those guys outwards. Here we go. So your work wreath frame should look something like this. We're going to set this guy off to the side for just a minute so that we can prep our sign. We're going to be making a wreath based on this Oh Holy Night sign. So I'm going to cut off this twine hanger, and we're going to add 2 mounting brackets to the back of our sign. If you're new to wreath making, guys, mounting brackets are something that every wreath maker should have in their toolbox. These guys are just plastic. They're 1 inch by 1 inch. This black part is the top and this sticky part is the bottom. And they've basically got openings all the way around so that you can run your floral wire, Chanel stem or pipe cleaners, or zip ties through there to safely secure your signs and embellishments to your wreath frame. And so you just peel off that tape on the back of the mounting bracket and place one on either side of your sign. Give it a good hard push. Doesn't need to be square, guys. Nobody's ever going to see it. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Make sure you peel your stickers off if they're not firmly attached. And then for some extra security, I just like to run a quick stripe of glue all the way around each mounting bracket, just to make sure that those guys aren't going to go anywhere. And then we're going to sit our sign off to the side so that can be drying while we add Deco Mesh into our wreath base. So today we're going to be doing the Poof and double curl method. It's one of my favorite methods for wreath making when using Deco Mesh. If you're new to wreath making, guys, Deco Mesh loves to fray. So anything that we can do as creators to help reduce that fray is always ideal. We're going to be using 3 different colors of 10-inch Deco Mesh today. We'll be using a burlap colored, a shimmery white, and a shimmery navy. And we're going to start with the burlap colored. You'll also need a standard ruler. And the first layer to this process, guys, is to add poofs to our wreath base. That's step number 1. We're going to start on the lower level. It doesn't matter where you start at the lower level, because at this point our wreath doesn't have a top or bottom. So have your Deco Mesh, your tan Deco Mesh roll in your work area and curl side down. Just roll out a foot or so. And we need to get this anchored down into our wreath base. So at the edge, I want you to press down with your thumbs. Your thumbs will be staying stationary and your 8 fingers will be doing the work here. We're just going to crawl that mesh back into our hand. just like so. And so now we've got this little bitty tail. So once you've got your little tail, then I want you to tuck that guy back underneath into your hands. And basically what that does is tuck away that raw edge of your deco mesh to, again, help prevent the fray. So keep a hold of that with your right hand and then come over to your wreath frame at any set of ties here on the lower level and open them up into a wide V, and then take your deco mesh tail, place that all the way down to the base of the V of those ties and give them 2 tight twists and point them back outwards again. And so we've just anchored our deco mesh down to our frame. And it's time to start making some poofs. To make our poofs, we're going to take our ruler, lay your ruler on the most recent set of ties, come out to that 10-inch mark. And guys, no one's looking for perfection here. No one's going to be measuring your deco mesh. But identify that 10-inch mark and then scrunch and gather your mesh into your hand, just like we did earlier. Turn that right side out. And then you're going to come to your very next set of lower level ties, open them into a wide V, and place your deco mesh all the way down into the base of that V, and give it a couple of tight twists. And we just added our first lower level poof. Let's do one more together and then we'll speed ahead. So I'm going to place my ruler at the most recent set of ties that I've used, come out to that 10-inch mark, scrunch and gather that mesh into my hand, come to my very next set of ties on that lower level, open them into a wide V, and place that mesh all the way down to the base of that V, and give those ties a couple of tight twists. And we've just added our second poof. So go ahead and add your 10-inch poofs all the way around the lower level. And when you get to the last set of ties, I'll meet you back here. Okay, it's time to add our last lower level poof. And so we're going to follow that same method we've been doing, guys. Just take your ruler, place it on top of those ties, identify that 10-inch mark, scrunch and gather your mesh. And we're actually going to be adding this right on top of our starting point where we anchored down. So just carefully untwist those ties. As long as you're careful, I promise that mesh isn't going to go anywhere. So we're going to open those ties back up and lay this pinch of mesh right on top, all the way down to the base. And again, give it a couple of tight twists. And we've just added our last lower level poof. And so now it's time to jump to the upper level. And so what we're going to do to jump to the upper level, guys, is keep a hold of your mesh in your hand and pulling it tautly, come to that first set of ties on the upper level. And we're not going to make a poof here. We're just going to keep that mesh taut. And we're going to come in behind that set of ties and anchor down our mesh at the base of the V of those ties and give it a couple of tight twists. So as you can see here, we've jumped from the lower to the upper level. It's nice and taut, no poof. And now we're going to start adding poofs to the upper level. We're basically going to do the exact same thing that we did on the lower level, except our upper level poofs will only be 8-inch poofs. So you're going to take your ruler, place it on your most recent set of ties that you've used, identify that 8-inch mark, scrunch and gather that mesh, come to that very next set of upper level ties, open them into a wide V, place that deco mesh down at the base of the V, and give it 2 tight twists. And we've just added our first upper level poof. Go ahead and add your 8-inch poofs all the way around the upper level, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, it's time to add our last upper level poof. So we're going to place our ruler on the most recent set of ties that we've used and come out to that 8-inch mark. We'll scrunch and gather our mesh. And we're going to add this right on top of where we jumped our mesh from the lower to the upper. So again, just carefully untwist those ties and add that poof right on top of where we made that jump, pressing it all the way down to the base of your ties, and then give those ties a couple of tight twists. We've just added our last upper level poof. And so now we need to cut off the excess bit of our mesh. And so you want to be careful here, guys, that you don't accidentally cut your poofs or something that you don't intend to. And what I do to help with that is grab that excess mesh and I place my hand between my poof and the mesh, and then I leave about an inch, inch and a half or so of that mesh just to make sure it doesn't come undone. No one's going to see it. And carefully cut that mesh away. Just like that. Now that we've added all of our poofs into our frame, as you can see, we're getting some great coverage, but it's still pretty light and airy, and we want that coverage to be more dense. So it's on to step number 2 with our deco mesh. Go ahead and set your wreath frame off to the side. And now we're going to prepare our white and our navy deco mesh. So the next step to our wreath base is to add deco mesh curls. Remember, we've got 18 sets of ties on our entire wreath base. And we're going to add 1 white curl and 1 navy curl to every single set of ties. So we're going to need 18 pieces of the white and 18 pieces of the navy. And those pieces need to be cut at 10 inches. I'm going to use my self-healing mat and my rotary cutter, which if you are new to wreath making, guys, and you've not yet seen the rotary cutter, it basically works like a pizza cutter. And it allows you to cut your deco mesh quickly and with nice clean lines. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll leave a link for you below. If you don't have a rotary cutter and a self-healing mat, just go ahead and use your scissors and a ruler. So you're just going to roll your pieces out and cut them at 10 inches in length. And you're going to need 18 pieces of each. So go ahead and cut your deco mesh pieces and I'll meet you back here. Now that we've got our deco mesh 10-inch pieces cut, go ahead and grab a clothespin or a chip clip and your wreath base. And we're going to add our curls into our wreath base. So curls are basically just like what they sound, guys. So grab a piece of deco mesh and lay it in your workstation curl side up. And you're just going to roll that guy into a cylindrical tube, or what we call in the wreath making world, curls. Just like so. And so it's basically about an inch in diameter there in the center. And then of course it flails a bit at the ends. You'll take your clip and just pinch that guy in the center and set it off to the side. And now we'll grab our second color and do the same thing. So I'm just going to lay that in my workstation, curl side up. Roll this guy into a cylindrical tube so that it's about an inch or so in diameter in the center. I'll grab that first curl I made and we're just going to make a loose X seam side down. And we're going to add this curled X to every single set of ties in our wreath base, guys. So it doesn't matter where you start. Just spread those ties into a wide V. Place the center of your deco mesh X all the way down to the base. And give it a couple of tight twists. And we've just added our first set of curls. Let's do one more set together and then we'll speed ahead. So grab your first colored piece of deco mesh and lay it in your work area, curl side up. Roll that guy into a cylindrical tube so that it's about an inch or so in diameter in the center. Grab your clip, pinch that guy in the middle. Grab your second piece of deco mesh, lay it in your work center, curl side up, and you guessed it, roll it into a cylindrical tube so that it's about 1 inch or so in diameter in that center. We're going to place one curl on top of the other to make an X. You'll come to any set of available ties in your wreath frame. Open that set of ties into a wide V and place that Deco mesh curl X right down in the center of that V all the way at the base, and give it a couple of tight twists. Go ahead and add 2 curls to every single set of ties on your wreath frame, and I'll meet you back here. All right, guys, we've got all of our curls added into our wreath base, and look how full this beauty has become. So it's just got a lot of depth and dimension, super great coverage. And at this point, this guy is probably, 26 or so inches in diameter and probably about 8 inches deep. And now it's time for us to add our sign. That glue is nice and dry on those mounting brackets. And we're going to use 2 16-inch long floral wire stems to anchor this guy down. And so I'm just going to fold this floral wire stem in half at a loose V just to identify that center point. I'll run that right through my bracket and give it a loose twist or two just so it doesn't slide out while we're adding it in. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And now it's time to anchor this guy down to our wreath base. We're going to add this sign right in the middle of the wreath. Of course, you could place it, in a different place if you'd prefer. So I'm just going to take these floral wire stems and one side at a time, run that guy right through the mesh, right through our wreath base. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to actually sneak that guy right around this crossbar. That will help the sign keep from sliding. I'm just going to give it a couple of loose twists just to hold it in place. Then we'll come back to the front side of our wreath and do the same thing on the opposite side. So now I'm going to untwist and retwist at about 80% tension. You want that sign to be nice and secure and not floppy, but not so tight down in there that it disappears within your wreath. So I've given it 6 or 7 tight twists at about 80% tension, and then I'm trimming off the excess bits of those wire ties with my small snips. Then I'm going to come back to those floral wire ends, pinch them together so they're not as pokey, and kind of curl them back into the wreath so that if we or our customer grabs there, we're not going to get poked. And then I'm just going to take a 1/2 inch bead of glue or so and run that right over that floral wire stem in the frame of our wreath, just for some extra stability, guys. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. How stinking cute is this wreath coming together, guys? Oh my goodness. So let me show you the bow that I actually made for this wreath, guys. I actually made this on a tutorial earlier this week. This is what's called a terry bow. I'll leave a link for the step-by-step tutorial on how to make this style of bow. So I've decided to place the bow on the upper left. This is off to the side here. And so I'm going to use another 16-inch floral wire stem to do so. So I've just folded it loosely to identify that center point. I'm going to wrap that pipe cleaner around that wire stem and give it 3 or 4 twists. Then we'll snip off the remaining part of our pipe cleaner. And I'm doing this, guys, because the pipe cleaner is just too flexible and soft to push down through all of our layers of Deco mesh. And now I'm going to fold, give this guy a couple of spins here, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And we're going to anchor this right above our sign to the left. So between 10 and 11 o'clock, if this were a clock. And again, I apologize, it's off to the side here. So I just trimmed away those wire ties, guys, so they wouldn't get in our way. And we're going to poke this beauty right down in here and anchor it just as we did our sign. Perfect. So I'm going to come back to the back side of my wreath. That's been given 4 or 5 tight twists at 80% tension. We'll trim off those excess bits of floral wire and take our needle nose pliers and just curl those pointy ends back and out of the way, like so. And I'll run just a drop of glue right where that wire meets our frame. And we'll flip this guy back over. So we've managed to squish our bow. No worries. We'll fluff that guy out here in a little bit. Then I'm just adding a smaller 4-loop bow to the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to secure that down with those ties on our wreath. Give that 3 or 4 tight twists, and then I'm going to trim off the excess bit of our ties here. And once you trim that off, just take your fingers and curl that guy kind of back and under and out of the way. Let's take a look at our loops here. So stinking cute. I love this navy and white theme, guys. So adorable. And because it's wired ribbon, it will take the shape that you want. You can curl those tails. Just give them a little bit of a bump, whatever you want to do. Let's go ahead and fluff up our upper level bow. I'm just going to open these loops up with my hand because we did a pretty good job squishing this girl when we were getting it attached into our wreath. So stinking cute. The terry bow really gives a lot of depth and texture. It's a great bow. If you're looking for something a little bit more bougie, might need to trim that tail a little bit. We don't like that to hang on the sign. So I'm just going to take 1/4 of an inch or so off. Here we go. Adorable. So we've added our 2 bows into our wreath. It's really looking cute, guys. We're going to add some ribbon tails into the remainder of the ties. So remember, we had 18 ties in total, and we've used 2 of those for our bows. So we've got 16 ties left that need our attention. And we're going to add 2 sets of ribbon ties to every single remaining sets of ties. So I'm going to use 2 different combinations. Combination 1 is going to be the 2.5-inch snowflake with the 1.5-inch white glitter. And ribbon combination 2 is going to be the solid navy with the super cute snowflake ribbon. And so we're going to need 8 pieces of each of our ribbon types, and we're going to cut those at 10 inches in length, guys. So let me show you an easy way to make your ribbon tails. You're just going to roll out your ribbon, identify that 10-inch mark, and just approximate, guys, nobody's going to be measuring. Pinch that with your finger and then fold it accordion style the total number of times, or pieces I should say, that you need. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Once you've got that total number of pieces that you need, just go ahead and trim your ribbon away. And I'm actually going to angle cut the ends of these ribbon tails. And so what I'm going to do is come down on the side about 1 inch and cut up diagonally to that corner. Now, know the strength of your scissors, guys. If this is too thick of a stack, you know, separate them and do them individually or in smaller groups. Flip that ribbon stack around, marry up those ends, do the exact same thing. And so then what we've done here, guys, is quickly cut our 8-inch pieces of ribbon tail and trim our ends super quick. So go ahead and follow the same method with all of your ribbon types until you've got 8 10-inch cuts with your ends trimmed. I'll meet you back here. Let me pause real quick here, guys. If you are ever using a shaped ribbon, such as I am doing here with the snowflakes, you're always going to want to cut those pieces just straight across. Don't try to angle trim or dovetail, because it's just going to ruin the integrity of the ends of your ribbon, and it's not really going to serve any purpose. It's just going to be wasteful. So for scalloped edges, or basically any type of ribbon that does not have a straight edge, just go ahead and trim those straight across. Now that we've got all of our ribbon tails trimmed and ready to go, let's bring our wreath back into our work area and start adding tails into each of the remaining sets of ties on our wreath base. You're also going to want to have a small pair of snips handy. So remember, we're adding 2 tails to every single set of ties. And so what I do, guys, is just lay one on the other. Either eyeball to find that center point, or you can fold it in half if that's easier for you. But once you've identified that center point, just pinch and pleat that guy in the middle and give it a pinch so it kind of looks like a men's bow tie. Fold that into a loose V over your thumb like so, and come to any set of ties on your wreath base. And because we've got 2 different ribbon sets here, guys, I'm going to go back and forth, alternating between the 2. So I've just placed those 2 tails all the way down to the center of our ties, given those ties 2 or 3 tight twists. And now that we're done adding things into our ties, I'm going to trim those ends off, just like so. And then take your fingers, curl those ties back and out of the way, and then fluff those ribbon tails. And by fluff, guys, I just make sure they're pointing away from the center of our wreath, and that they're straight and looking cute. And we've just added our first set of ties. Let's do one more together, and then we'll speed ahead. Okay, so I'm going to alternate back and forth between the 2 ribbon types. So this time I'm going to use my navy with this super cute snowflake and lay that right on top like so. I'm going to just eyeball to find that center and give it a pinch and a pleat. And then you're going to fold that into a loose V over your thumb. Come to your very next set of ties, open them into a V, and place those ribbon tails right down at the center of that V. Give those ties 2 or 3 tight twists, and then take your small snips and trim off the remaining bits of your ties. Then I just curl those out of the way with my finger and straighten out my ribbon tails. All right, guys, let's go ahead and add 2 ribbon tails to every single set of remaining ties on our wreath, making sure you trim off those tie ends when you're finished and curling those nubs back under, and I'll meet you back here. Our last step, guys, is to add in some winter greenery. This is just a really pretty heavy duty, almost like a plastic frosted winter greenery. This came from Hobby Lobby. Guys, if you are new to wreath making, you'll soon discover that florals will nearly always be your most expensive part of wreath making. And Hobby Lobby has their florals on sale for 40% off every other week. So keep an eye on your flyer. And what I'm going to do here, guys, is just trim off each one of these individual branches. I'm just going to do one bush at a time here. So I'm just taking my small snips and trimming those guys off right at the base there. you're going to be left with, pieces that are approximately 2 to 3 inches in length with a little bit of a nub on the end. And what we're going to do, guys, is hot glue one of these little winter greenery bits at the center of where all of our ties were, just for one last little bit of depth. And so all I'm going to do is take my glue gun. Typically I wouldn't recommend you do this above your wreath, guys, because you don't want to drip. And just on that stem, so about 1/4 of an inch, put a little stripe of glue, and then come into where those ties were at that we've trimmed off, and add a single piece of greenery to every single spot, both the upper and the lower level. So I'm just going to work my way all the way around. The only place you're not going to add greenery is where your bows are. So just nestle them right down to where those nubs are, or bits of leftover tie, and these greenery and hot glue ends will grab right a hold of that end and secure nicely. So work your way all the way around your wreath. Add a single greenery bit at every single place where we had a tie, using a little dollop of your hot glue, and I'll meet you back here. So I ended up needing to use one whole bush from Hobby Lobby, and then just a few pieces from another bush. And this beauty is finished, guys. I sure hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, guys. Happy crafting.